What is up, everybody? This is Lyle, No Hippie Trucking and Transportation. You know, I'm coming at you after about that 2-week break. I mean, I did put out a video yesterday, but during that 2-week break, I had a chance to really sit back and think about what is the value, if any, that I have in this YouTube channel. And, you know, there's a lot of great channels out there that do a lot of great things. You know, I'm not going to be the channel that's out there showing my day-to-day life, because honestly, even doing this video right now with people walking by, I feel a little uncomfortable with people seeing me film myself. So you're never going to see me walking around with the camera doing that whole thing. You know, I'm not going to be the channel showing paychecks and all that kind of stuff. So really all that's left is the perception that I've got. And that perception is going to be just life lessons that I've learned over the course of my 55 years. Now, there's a lot of people that watch my channel, came to Prime, whatever, that are my age. And for them, I'm just going to remind you of some of the things that you've learned along the line that may serve you well in this industry. So yesterday I had somebody leave a comment and said they were coming to Prime. You know, what's some advice if I plan on going lease? Now, the advice I'm going to give you in this video, and what I'm going to talk about is just kind of scratching the surface, because I could obviously go on and on about different things, but these are just some things that came to mind. Advice that I give new people coming into Prime, and these aren't just Prime issues or Prime specific, trucking specific. It's pretty much just life specific for the most part. So I came up with some things that I thought would be some tips that I would give somebody. Company, lease, into trucking, life in general. Okay? Number one, have some money stashed away. This has nothing to do with anything in regards to trucking. This is just life. Have money stashed away. You know, they did a survey or something like that where they said that if the average household got a bill or something like that over $400, it would cause them financial strain. Stack your money aside. It makes things a whole lot more relaxing when you're not really stressed out about the money. So that's number one. And this is in no particular order. Another one is stay away from negative people. And I'm going to give you a good example of this. This could be somebody on Facebook saying, I got this great load, you know, it picked up in, you know, Illinois and it's going to Michigan. It's going to a place I love. I stopped at this great truck stop, and somebody's going to say something like, well, your next load... Well, I'm glad you got that, because your next load is going to be shit. There's no freight out there, and that truck stop you stopped at is probably going to close down in the next year or something like that. You know, there's always going to be negative people out there, and one thing that I've learned is to stay far away from those people. And as a matter of fact, if I'm talking to somebody or in a group of people and that stuff starts coming up, I either try to change the conversation or I'll leave the conversation. So stay away from negative people, because that will rub off on you. And that's part of the reason I took this break. No matter how strong you think you are, how positive your mindset is, get enough negative people around you, it will drag you down. So stay away from negative people. Another one is don't limit yourself based on the production of others. You know, this comes from, you know, my past life in mortgages, but it applies the same thing in trucking. You know, I often see people say, how much money do you make at Prime? This, that, the other. As soon as somebody throws out a number and you think, oh, that's enough to live on, you're limiting yourself. That's your, that can become your ceiling. So don't let other people's past production limit what you can do. Or keep you from, you know, pursuing something that you want to pursue. Just because somebody says, you know what, I made X amount of dollars, and you look at it and you're like, I can't make that money. Or that's not enough money for me to live on. And you base what you have on what they're saying. You've limited yourself, all that kind of stuff. Do not limit yourself or base anything on what anybody else says. And that's, I don't really put out numbers, but that's me included. Don't ever listen to somebody and say, this is what I'm making, and have that be your cap or floor. All right? So don't limit yourself. Now, this is something that comes from my previous business, and it comes from really all of them. Mortgages, banking, car sales, goals. And a lot of people think goal is like, I want to save $100,000. You know what? That is kind of a goal, but not for a real professional goal setter. And this was something I learned really in the mortgage industry, but in all sales industries, is to be specific about your goals. Short, medium, long-term goals. What is the goal? So you saying, oh, I want to have $100,000. Well, why do you want to have $100,000? Dig into that and have that like cemented in. And when it comes to the goals that I have and stuff like that, I mean, it is like literally like laser focused, and it keeps you pushing, so it'll keep you pushing. If you say that you want to make $100,000 in the next year, and this is just an example, and you have $100,000 saved up in 6 months, well, you might, let up off the gas on that. It's finding the why for all these things. So short-term goal, it could be whatever, but you always need to figure out that why in the short-term goal, or it's not going to make sense to you if there's not a reason for it. It just can't be to make a bunch of money or anything like that. There has to be a reason for it. Don't follow the crowd, and that is easy. And where you're going to find this a lot is going to be on Facebook. And excuse me if I'm squinting, but the sun is beaming right into my eyes. You're going to see a lot of this on Facebook, where you have people that are trapped into this like little like circle, and they never really break out of that circle. Don't follow the crowd. Like, you set your own trend. You get into a little circle of people, and a good example, and this comes a lot from the car sales business, because in the mortgage business and banking business, you really don't see what a lot of people are doing. But in car sales, you know exactly what everybody's doing. The people that sell X amount of cars tend to hang around the people that sell X amount of cars. And it's just kind of like that. And it stays this vicious circle, and kind of goes back to the same thing about limiting yourself. And a lot of that stuff is subconscious. So, if you do follow the crowd, they say that 80%, and not necessarily in trucking, but outside of trucking, 80% of the business is done by 20% of the people. And it can be pretty similar in trucking, and we're going to kind of touch on this down in a little bit. Build relationships and network with people that are where you want to be. One of the best things about having this YouTube channel is being able to talk to those drivers that have been here for, you see some of these guys I talk to out here, and I don't even know why they're watching my channel or whatever, but, they got so many patches on their sleeves, you don't know whether to salute, bow, whatever, your highness, whatever, but, network with all these people. They're going to tell you kind of the last time that the freight market was slow, or they're going to tell you about, all these little different intricacies that are going on within Prime or in trucking in general. Networking, I did pull that from my last profession, when that was all that you really did was just network 100% of the time. And it's one of the good things about being, I'm at the terminal right now. I need to get some taxes done, get some stuff done to my truck, things like that. And you just run into so many people, and a lot of you guys are watching this channel now, and all those interactions, I value all those. And it's that networking. Somebody asked me, networking. That is a good one. And I just want to touch back on that following the crowd. Too many people, and this is not a shot at anybody that's asked this question, because a lot of people aren't coming from this background. But whenever you're dealing with, and I'm talking it could be car sales, but I'm saying above car sales, and even above the level where I was at. There's people out there doing serious sales where a sale could take a year, 2 years, shit like that. They may make $500,000 on a sale, things like that. But if I was a sales manager, somebody comes in, applies for a job, and they say, "What's your average salesperson make?" I'm gonna look at that like that's somebody that's pretty weak, because they're already trying to put themselves with the crowd. If you're a salesperson or somebody in trucking, you don't want to be part of that crowd. And I want to kind of talk about that a little bit, because there's somebody that I was talking to a while back, and we had a conversation, and they said, "Lyle, I saw your video and you were talking about this driving 8.5 hours a day, and I was just doing that because that's kind of what Logs had said was the thing to do. And when you spoke about the way you run, I'd noticed an immediate improvement in my numbers. And the reason was this: you start listening to a bunch of people, they're like, okay, and it makes sense on paper. Run 8.5 hours a day and you're never going to run out of your clock. You'll be able to run all the time. And I just think that's not the way to do it. And the reason that he said his numbers became better was he's running 8.5 hours a day, and on some of those loads it works, but on some of those loads it doesn't. So if you're running 8.5 hours a day, your last leg of that load, you might have to run 250 miles, 300 miles, whatever, anything more than 50. I mean, not that that's going to change things that much, but let's say that it's 300 miles because you've been driving 8.5 hours, 8 hours a day. So you have your clock. You're delivering a load with no time on your clock. And if, let's say you even have 4 hours in your clock when you could have had 11 hours in your clock, you're severely limiting your next load. And it's because you followed this whole little thing, like just drive 8.5 hours a day, I mean, find your own way, but pattern yourself out of people that you think are where you want to be. There's people that have been here for, like I said, I talked to some of these people out here. They got so many patches on their sleeve. I don't know if I should salute, bow, what I need to do when I talk to them. And they all have good advice. And the good thing about this whole networking thing I'm talking about is I think that I'm able to help with some of that too. I spoke with the driver, been here a long time. I'm not going to get into that because I'm not sure that he wants any of that out. But I'm learning as much by having, these interactions as anybody else. But anyway, those are just some tips that I would give. Those aren't just coming to Prime tips, getting into trucking tips. Those are life tips. And, it's a struggle to maintain that all the time. Being positive, it's a lot easier to do it in a business setting than it is in a social setting where you have emotions involved and things like that. But when this is straight business, should be pretty easy to maintain positivity. And like I said, one of the laws of power, I'm not even going to get into all that deeply, is stay away from negative or even unlucky people. And as bad as that sounds, staying away from unlucky people, that shit'll rub off on you. Anyway, enough about that. I do appreciate you stopping by No Hippie Trucking and Transportation. As always, comment, subscribe, and I'm out.